Welcome to Diary of an Unemployed Actor with me, Milo Dennison. Each week, I speak with up-and-coming actors, actresses, and filmmakers about the entertainment industry. We discuss success, failure, and share a few tips to inspire those of you who have a passion for the creative arts. Today, I am speaking with Ross K. Foad. He is an actor, a writer, and he's created a few web series, long-running web series, as a matter of fact. So he's got some great stories to help us out with anyone who is thinking about doing their own web series and how he kind of went about making his. He also has autism and dyspraxia, which we get into in a decent amount of detail. So it's nice to hear that kind of story to motivate those of you out there who also might, be slightly autistic, or maybe you have coordination issues, or maybe sight or something else going on, and to know that when it comes to being creative, that you can still create opportunity for yourself. And he talks about one of the local BBC-based schemes that he got involved in to kind of help promote people with disabilities. So it's kind of nice to hear that story. I do want to let you know that sometimes when we're recording these things remotely, we're dependent upon technology and we're dependent upon people's locations. So Ross's sound quality, unfortunately, is not that great. I would recommend that if you want to listen to this episode, maybe try to listen to it in an area where there's not a lot of background noise to make it easier to hear. And as always, let's do a quick commercial break for a word from a sponsor, and then on to my discussion with Ross K. Foad. Yeah. Like I said, it sounds a bit like you're in a in the trunk of a car or something.
I assure you, I've not been kidnapped. Everything's okay.
All right, good to know. Good to know. Okay, but I guess we should start a bit at the beginning. You've more or less been acting since you were a baby.
Yes, that is correct. My first gig was when I was about 18 months old. It was in a Pampers nappy advert.
So your parents are actors as well, is that right?
Yes, that is how I wound up getting into that. Both of my parents are both of them are actors.
Mm-hmm.
And my elder brother is a special effects makeup artist, doing the prosthetic stuff and beards and things like that.
Do you ever call him then if you need some kind of prosthetic or makeup for one of your projects?
Yes. So he's very busy, and obviously my projects are tiny compared to what the sort of things he works on. He was on Game of Thrones for quite some time. He even got nominated for an Emmy for his work on that. So yeah, he's quite busy. So, but he helps me where he can, though.
That's nice. That's handy. I'm assuming growing up in that type of a family, did you ever want to do something other than be in the entertainment industry, or was it kind of always a goal of yours to be like a writer, actor, director?
I'd say initially acting was definitely. I wasn't forced into it. I never remember any pressure like that, which some people might think. It was just I had the option to, because of my parents' connections, to pursue it, and I did definitely start with. I definitely really wanted to. I sort of fell more into writing after a while, largely because I was very, very shy as a child, and even though I really liked acting, I was really shy, and so writing appealed to me more. So for a period I did a lot of auditioning when I was young. So I had an agent when I was 8, and did act. So I was doing acting at a very young age. But yeah, I loved the acting part. I was just so shy about everything else about it that I hated it. So writing sort of felt a bit more natural to me to pursue. So after a while, I sort of fell out of acting until sort of my late teens, when I picked it up again. I picked it up again to start stand-up, of all things. Then just sort of picked it up from there.
Have you ever had a normal job, or what people would consider a normal job?
Yeah, certainly have. I have worked the retail side of things, which I really did not like at all. Maximum respect to people that can do it because I cannot.
Yeah.
It was not for me. I needed to be creative. A bit of a cliche, but that's how it ended up working for me.
You mentioned you had an agent at the age of 8. Do you still have that same agent or a different one?
No, no. That was typically a child agency, and I don't think they're still running. But they might be able. I might actually have to check. But no, that is not my current agent. My current agent is a really nice one called Visible People, and it's the first and sort of most established agency for disabled actors. So I'm quite proud to be part of that. So I myself am autistic and dyspraxic, hence why I'm under their management.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that if you don't mind,
No, of course, very happy to.
because I was talking to a previous person and she had a character in one of her films that was autistic, and one of the things that feedback that she got or complaints was that they felt like the character wasn't autistic enough because there's kind of different level.
Yeah,
Because I think a lot of people when they think autistic they think Rain Man, and Dustin Hoffman's character in that, but that's not really the case in a lot of situations.
it really does depend how she's written it. But I think it's a bit of an unfair criticism because autism is on a spectrum scale as to severe, where indeed sort of Rayman, where you would indeed need assisted living to function, and then there's more what's classified as, I suppose, high functioning, where you would still be able to sort of hold down a job, live a normal life, but there are some things that are going to be difficult for you. There's definitely not a blanket definition. There's definitely not a blanket sort of severity to it. It very much is on a sliding scale as to how it affects people. I don't think that's quite fair to say that a character wasn't autistic enough. I think someone might actually find that slightly insulting if they were autistic and to be told, no, you're not autistic enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, how it affects you, it manifests itself in slightly different ways.
Well, that's it. Yeah, and that's kind of what I kind of found a little offensive. Like, how dumb are people sometimes? It's like, oh, I was expecting, this extreme level, and you just had somebody that over here on the scale. And then dyspraxic, that's that's a motor function. Is that right?
Yes, it's it's kind of like considered to be the physical dyslexia, it's also known as, where it's one of the closest things to it, which, essentially it's a motor function, it affects motor coordination. There are a lot of crossovers. For example, people with dyslexia they very rarely just have it. It's normally crossover with autism or with dyslexia. A lot of things on the spectrum do tend to be, people rarely just have one. There's normally some overlapping stuff going on. But with me, with dyspraxia, yes, it generally affects motor coordination, and it's also known as clumsy child syndrome, which I suppose is an accurate way to portray it. But yeah, it doesn't make coordination always easier. Things like catching balls, walking in a straight line can be a bit, even that can be a bit difficult.
Being an actor and stuff, do you more or less go for roles that kind of fit within that area, or do you go for roles outside of that? And then how do you, fit into those roles, I guess, is the question.
It's a good question. There are certain roles where I wouldn't see myself. I know the point of acting is obviously to be someone you're not, but logistically speaking, I do have to consider the physicality of certain things. For instance, a great action hero with a lot of fight scenes or something like that. I don't have the coordination to pull that off and make it look all right. My brain just doesn't. It just could not figure that sort of thing out. So if it's going to require something like that, or indeed dancing, I would be very, very hesitant to go for such a role. That being said, if some quite famous actors have it, such as Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter, and I know that he took dancing to try and improve it. I don't know if that was actually specific for a role or if he just wanted to do that. And it's something I might consider doing if a role sort of requires it. I just think I would be very embarrassed because it can be an embarrassing condition because you're embarrassed about how you move or it can be difficult.
Have you seen a change in the industry? Because I know, like, obviously, in the U.S., we see a lot now of a push to cast actors, with certain things like, an actual blind person to play a blind actor, an actual person, in a wheelchair, that type of stuff. Have you seen any of that here in London in your experience?
Yes, certainly. I was I am part of a sort of initiative the BBC ran. They started it 2 years ago called the BBC Class Act, which essentially was set up to increase disabled representation on screen, as currently the BBC wanted to have more disabled actors on screen. I think their goal is now currently, or will be, like 7% of actors should be disabled to better reflect population or something like that. And they were saying to all the people that make their programs, why don't we have more disabled people? They said, well, where are they? We don't know how to find them, which is why they sort of set up this scheme where they auditioned disabled people across the UK and selected 30 of us to sort of be under this program where we sort of got additional mentoring, training, and access to more castings and just sort of a bit of a leg up. That was a really, really big thing for me. I'm very traumatized thing to be part of, and that definitely was a massive career boost for me. That led to getting the agent. But to go back to your point, that was definitely a bone of contention, but we had a very, very wide range of people, cerebral palsy, disabled people, obviously disabled people, deaf people, blind people, a lot of big mix on as part of the program. And definitely there was a bone of contention about roles being played by able people who didn't have that affliction. And it's a very sensitive area. I think might be quite specific to individual disability, to be honest, because I believe that there are certain roles where you can perhaps do it not better, but at least put off a convincing portrayal. We did a lot of performances. Typically, I'm thinking I don't know if you've ever seen a program called The Good Doctor with Freddie Highmore.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
I'm a big fan of it. Some people don't like his portrayal. Some people, I personally love it, and I really relate to it. And I think he does an amazing job with it. I totally believe his performance. Sorry, I'm rambling here.
Yeah.
My point is, yes, there is definitely a conversation about should disabled actors play disabled roles. And I certainly think there are positions where you are going to be a lot more limited. And I think, such as a blind person, they might not have access to they might not be the first consideration for quite a lot of roles. I think it's fair to say that might be the case. And so where there is a case for we need a blind actor, this role is a blind character, but something like that, I personally think that yes, that it should be. There should be definitely more opportunities for blind actors to try out for that role. So I would definitely agree that there should definitely be more at least, nobody should be given a role for the sake of it. I think everyone has to, audition and earn it. I would like to see more opportunities given to at least try out for that civic role for disabled actors, which I think there is a slow movement towards.
Yeah, it's a touchy subject because acting is playing a character, and so if you can play that character convincingly, then you're doing what you're supposed to do. But then
exactly.
The flip side is, of course, that it potentially excludes people for various reasons. And in casting, sometimes it's based on celebrity status, right? I mean, like how famous are you is what gets you cast in the film sometimes.
Absolutely. And you can, as much as we, love it for the art, at the end of the day, there is the bottom, the money at the end of the day. And so you can see why some people would be more reluctant to take a chance on an unknown but disabled actor that happens to fit that character over, bankable box office. So it's not going to be something that I see changing overnight, for sure. Yeah, it's very touchy subject. It's a difficult one.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, and it's one of those things you could talk about for hours and hours. So let's move on.
Yes.
So you also, we've already mentioned you're a writer and director, and you've directed a few web series.
Yeah.
There's a couple that I want to talk about. The one is, what is it? Holmes. It's like a Sherlock Holmes.
No Place Like Holmes.
There's no place like Holmes. Okay, so
yeah.
tell me a little bit about the inspiration for that and where'd that come from.
I'm a really big Sherlock Holmes fan, so that's kind of where that came from. No, I originally actually conceived it as a sort of going back to my sort of stand-up days. At the same time, I did a lot of sketch comedy with my friends, which was kind of a double act. And one of those sketches that I came up with, but we never actually made, was one with Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson being transported from Victorian times to present day. And it was just a one-off sketch that we never did. But I really liked the idea, so when the double act eventually fizzled out, not that I wanted it to, but my friends didn't want to go down that road anymore. And they said, people psychiatrists now, of all things. But I really liked the idea, and so I wanted to take it further. The only problem was, obviously, in my time filming little sketches and stuff, I was only a writer, I was a writer and an actor, not a director or filmmaker in any way. So No Place Like Holmes was very much trial by fire. It was my first try at doing a lot of these things: editing, shooting, directing. It's kind of where I learned everything that I sort of know. It's all been experimental, done through that, and that's been going on for 10 years now. And I know the idea of a modern Sherlock is not new, in the sense that it's been going on as far back as 1930s with Basil Rathbone. They have sort of updated back to wartime, and BBC's obviously Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch. That is obviously contemporary. Mine's different because it is, he's still sensible. He's still got his Victorian sensibilities. It's just the world has changed. Just he hasn't. I will also point out that this show came out before Sherlock did, so I didn't have any inspiration from there.
It's been going on for 10 years. How many episodes have you done?
I think we're at 41 now. There's typically between 3 to 5 per season. They used to be around 45 minutes. Now they're more, I sort of made them more sort of standard Americanized time of 22 minutes. I don't know if that's just the time I sort of wanted to run to, like TV for some reason, and that's how I've sort of been doing them.
Do you write each episode?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you write each episode. How much time do you spend writing?
Just depends. Generally, it can be anywhere between 2 weeks to a few months, just depending on the complexity of the case. I generally try to think of the sort of the crime, as it were, and how it gets solved first, and then write towards essentially those things, the clues and the the crime and the clue. But yeah, it really just does depend. A couple of weeks to a few months.
How much time do you spend filming each episode?
Again, this is dependent on like cast availability, because some people have been with the show for 4 or 10 years, so it can depend on cast availability. But an episode can take anywhere between a month to 3 months. Yeah, just depending on schedules.
Okay, so you've had a few people that have had to move on, and have you replaced them with other actors, or did you write their character out of the show?
Originally, I lost my original Watson after year 1, and then an actor, Mike Archer, took over as Watson. He's been in the role sort of ever since, though not too recently. But normally, he's the only one that's sort of being replaced. Otherwise, it tends to be, characters just get written out after a while. I like to try and keep things with the same actors.
Okay. And then crew-wise, how much do you have for a crew? Like camera, sound, like what's that process?
It's very skeleton. It's me where if I'm not in the scene, then I'm generally doing something crew-related. Otherwise, I have the help of maybe 1 or 2 hands-on to try and help me with other things. It's very shoestring. Despite that, it still has its little following. It still led me to a lot of opportunities, including a book deal based upon the series. I think it's a show that people recognise how much heart that I put into it, and so that's kind of a lot of the charm of it. It's very much, I'm very much being my baby for learning a lot, both behind and in front of camera. Is it the greatest technical feat? No, but it has its fans, and I've learned a lot from it, so I'm very proud of it.
And I would imagine it must be fun to do. I mean, you wouldn't be doing it for 10 years if you didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And all people I consider my greatest friends all came from that show.
Where is it if people wanted to see it?
It can be found on the website, which is nplh.co.uk, or on my YouTube, where if they just search my name, Ross K. Foad, they'll come to it.
What is Series of Mana?
Series of Mana is a fantasy web series that I make, that just finished its first season. It is as I said, fantasy series. It's based upon my favorite video game of all time, Secret of Mana, which was on the Super Nintendo, and it just has a very special place in my heart. And when I was young, I really wanted it to be real, and so this is as real life as I can get it to be. So again, it's just me pursuing a passion project that I'm having a lot of fun with.
Is it? Is there any like special effects or anything associated with that, since it's mana based?
Yes, it is very heavily. The unique thing about it is it's kind of like it switches between 3 different sort of styles. There's a heavy amount of green screen. I use a lot of green screen in my productions. I would be lost without it. I love green screen. So there's like live action parts of it. There's narration parts, which is more like kind of like storybook style, with the narrator sort of explaining where they went, what happened, blah blah blah, with some still images. And then the third thing is the integration of the actual original game footage from the 90s game, where that is overlaid with voiceover and sound effects and other little effects added, and so it kind of combines all 3 of those little elements. And so it's quite a lot of editing involved with it, special effects.
Are you doing the editing yourself?
Yes, I do all my editing myself.
It's interesting. Sometimes handing stuff off to another editor, you get it back, and it's like, that's not really what I wanted. I should have just done it myself.
Sometimes, I don't think I've never directed anything that I've not edited. I know how I see it. And yeah, and I've known I've had friends who directed and then ended up editing it themselves because the edit didn't come back when they sent it off to an editor. It didn't come back because they saw it, and then it's hard to explain how you see it. I think.
Yeah.
Only you can see that in your mind's eye. So I think there's definitely some people that are only going to be happy if they're not, and if they do it, or at least have an oversight of it, of what's going on.
Yeah, I've found, like, I like the idea of handing it off and having somebody else do something with it and seeing if they come up with something that you didn't think of. But my two experiences with handing an edit off to other people, one is it's still being edited and it was shot last year, so I'm still waiting on the editor to get it done.
Oh.
I mean, he's busy, I understand, and he sent me edits, but it's still not complete, you know. And then the other one, he sent it was so bad that I literally just told him to F off and went through and re-edited it myself.
Oh no.
And so that's been my two experiences with handing edits off. Yeah, so yeah, it'd be nice to be able to hand an edit off, but
I would love it for the sake of time, to be honest. Yeah, that I would.
Yeah.
I would love to save the time of not having to do that, but yeah, you run the risk of, will it be what I wanted it to be? When a lot of my projects, I do projects because I don't do them to enter festivals, things like that. It's pure, professionally, I consider myself way more into acting, in terms of pursuing it. I don't actually have huge, I don't harbor desires to direct great big Hollywood films. I direct things for fun, for myself, really. It's more of a thing for me more than anything. Whereas acting is more where I'm interested in, pursuing much bigger and grander stages. Directing is very personal for my little things that are just special for me, really.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, acting is the pursued career, and then the other stuff is kind of the side stuff, the hobby, the fun stuff. Yeah. Makes perfect sense. One last question on Series of Mana. What did you learn from doing Sherlock or other web series that you then took onto that and said, okay, these are the lessons learned. Now I'm going to use this to make this particular project better?
One of the points that I took over was I started incorporating the narration. I never initially did that in the early bits of my best like homes, but later on I started to use a lot more narration. So a lot of the action was narrated by Sherlock while the visuals were playing on, and I'll use the odd snippet of dialogue. That is something I sort of took over because I felt it fit the more sort of magical storybook narrative to it. So that's why I put that in as part of it. And also, what else I learned? I guess I could say, I like to sort of cut my teeth for learning everything that I know about like green screen and just directing and editing in general. But from No Place Like Home, that was transferred over to Series of Mana. Yeah, specifically the narration, but also just the general experience, which I would no way have had if I had not been doing No Place Like Home.
Yeah, green screen's interesting because people think it's really easy, but it's actually not as easy as you might think.
No, not at all.
Two more questions.
Yeah.
First one is there, as an actor, is there anything in your CV in the special skills section that is unusual or people wouldn't think about you?
I have roller skating, which is very bizarre that I'm really good at, because obviously the dyspraxia means I am generally not well coordinated. But I've been roller skating since I was 9, and for some reason it's like the only thing which requires coordination that I'm actually really good at, and I'm proud to do. I do it for like an hour at least, pretty much every day. So maybe it's just an extensive amount of practice that allows me to do it. But yeah, I can roller skate very, very well. I should. Someone requires some sort of 80s 90s themed.
Next time they're casting for a
Yeah,
80s themed film with a roller skating
with
rink.
roller skates. Yeah, I'm the guy.
Nice. Do they have roller skating rinks in London? Like, I don't think I've ever seen one.
No, not really. There's ice skating rinks, there's skate parks for the skating specifically. Not really, unfortunately.
Okay. And last question is, where can people track you down if they want to find you? Social media, website, whatever.
Well, as I said, my No Place to Come's website is simply mplh.co.uk. Otherwise, I can be found on Twitter at Ross K. Foad, and I can also be found on YouTube. Just again, search my name, Ross K. Foad. Those are the main sort of social places I frequent.
Perfect. And of course, I'll throw the links into the show notes for anyone who want to click on those. Well, it was fantastic talking to you, Ross. That was really informative. Thank you.
No, thank you. Really appreciate it.